Hi everyone. That's okay. Let's start our discussion session since it's 5 o'clock. So today we are going to talk about the MongoDB. Before we start our class, I want to show you something. First, the assignment will be due on today. The first assignment 2.1 will be due on today's midnight, and assignment 2.2 will be due on Wednesday's midnight. So please submit your assignment on time. And we are going to do pre-review after you submit the assignment 2. So when you finish submitting the assignment 2 on Wednesday, so I think you can get a notification from Canvas that you are going to do the pre-review. So the student who haven't changed the email ID in OpenEDX and Piazza, please change your email ID to the valid one, because we are going to post any announcements on Piazza. So if you don't change your email address, so you cannot get announcement automatically. So please do that as soon as you can. So before the class, I just posted 2 announcements on it. So here, so there are 2 links for you, and I just posted 2 links that you can just click on it, and you can view some materials and documents for you to learn the MongoDB. I think that's a good start for you who haven't learned MongoDB before, or who haven't processed the MongoDB before. So, and there's another yes, these slides are posted on the Canvas, so you can just go, not Canvas, the IU box. Just go to the IU box, I535 online, so you can find these slides. So let's go back to the GitStream. So some students have already created an account on XSEDE. So right now we don't have any, we have an allocation right now, but we haven't enrolled all students' username into allocation. So please don't email to the help desk, because they already know we have an account, but we haven't do that. So we will start to enroll all students into that allocation before we start the project. So maybe we will post a Google document for you to submit your username. I think it should be posted on Unit 5, so you can start to do some tests on the JetStream. So please just follow our notifications on Piazza, and you won't miss any information on it. So let's go back to our slides. Also, so if you want to get the weekly to-do list, you just go to the course info on OpenEDX. Every week we update an event to tell you what you should do for this week. And also you can go to the calendar. So it's on the courseware into 0 calendar. And you can get some deadline for that. There's some events posted on the calendar. You can check it and find more information. So let's go to our slides. So this week we are start to talk about the MongoDB. So most of students haven't hear the MongoDB or haven't processed the MongoDB. So MongoDB is a cross-platform document-oriented database. And seems like the 2 popular databases is MongoDB and MySQL. And so the MongoDB works on concept of collection and document. So MongoDB is quite different from the MySQL. So in MySQL there are database tables, that's all. But in MongoDB there are 3 levels there. So first level, the high level is the database. database is a container of collections, and inside the database there are several, there are many collections there. Collection is a group of MongoDB documents, and the document is the basic level for the MongoDB. That document is a set of key-value pairs. So let's compare between MongoDB and MySQL. Seems like MySQL is a relational database management system. So in MySQL, you predefine the database schema based on your requirement and set up the relationship between fields in the table. So this, when you use the MongoDB, you still have to define the database schema, but it's quite, you can define your schema based on your requirement without any limitations. These limitations means that there are no such limitations as the schema in MySQL. So we will discuss this schema later. So, but our concepts. So MySQL is going to use the table, row, column, and join, but MongoDB is going to use collection, document, and the fields. So in MongoDB, we use different data structure in it because it's non-SQL database. It proves high performance database for the users. So this is our next topic to discuss. So let's see the MySQL table. So this is a very simple MySQL table here. Like it has 3 columns here: user ID, username, row. So for each row, there's one record, like it's record 1, record 2. So this record just show about the username and row. And the table description. So for this table, there are, 3 columns, 3 fields. So in three fields, we have to define the information about that. So first, there's a user ID. The field 1 is the user ID, and then type int 11, the value none, and the primary key or foreign key. So if you if you use MySQL before, you will find that, to create a table in MySQL is a little bit complex because you have to think about, should we consider to build a key for that table, or should we just build a normal table for that? And you have to consider about the type. Should we just set the 11 or set the 50? So that's another consideration for that table. But so we try to use MongoDB instead of MySQL. So some people will ask why we have to use MongoDB, because the MySQL is very good enough. It's good enough for us to do some data processing, data storage, something like that. But I think MongoDB could give you another idea about why we should use MongoDB, why we should go to use non-SQL database. So first, MongoDB could hold different documents in a collection. So what does it mean, different documents? So for this one, we are going to talk about, this is our next work, but I can tell you something about that. So different documents you see means like you can save different records in a collection. Like for MySQL, you can save different records. So it means one record will have different fields there. So you can save different records in a table in MySQL. So but for MySQL, it's unacceptable because we cannot accept a different document in it. So, but for MongoDB, we can hold different documents. So it's very good for the database to handle different document. And the second line, so design your own data schema for special requirements. So in MySQL, when you define a schema for a table, so that's fixed. Even though you can add columns to that table, so for example, you already create a table for 10 fields, for 10 columns there. So suddenly someone asks you to add thousands of field columns into that table. So it will take you a lot of time to fix that schema. But for the MongoDB, this is not a problem. This is not an issue. So you can define what you like. You can define the data schema for any special requirements. And non-complex join. So if you use MySQL before, you will find it's very difficult to design a query join queries language, join query method for get some special values. Like you have to develop the efficient, join query method, so it takes a lot of time. But for the MongoDB, you don't need to think about the complex join, because when you design the schema, there's no complex relationship between documents. So the strong query ability. So for strong query ability, that the MongoDB just use a document-based query language. So when you try to learn the how to query document in MongoDB, you will find it's much faster than query something in MySQL, because in MongoDB we just use document to store everything, and when you try to use the inside the query language, it's very fast. The other way to improve the performance of query, like the MongoDB use internal memory for storing the working set. Like when you try to process a collection in MongoDB, the MongoDB database just load all this data, a part of this data, into the memory, so you can quickly query and process and manage all the data in the MongoDB. So I think that's the faster way to process the database. So here, we are going to show you a sample document in MongoDB. So for this document, you can see that's the key value pairs. Like you can see the first field is the key, and the next field is a value. And we use, okay, sorry, I missed a comma there. So that we use comma to split the different key value pairs in this document. And many students will ask why we have these special brackets and these braces and brackets there. So this is another topic we are going to discuss in this discussion session, because this is that is a schema, a very special language to describe the document in MongoDB. So first, let's pay attention to the key value pairs. First, let's see what's the key value pairs. Like, do you know if you learn hash map or hash table in Java, so you will know that's the key value pair. You have a key, then the key have a relative values there. So we use a column to split this key and values. So for this sample, we can see we have a key there, ID is the key, and the object ID is the values. And the title is the key, and the MongoDB sample is the value. We use a comma to split all these several key value pairs. So when you try to find something, if you know the key, like you know the title, you just use the title to find the relative values here. So if you use the title, you can get a MongoDB sample, this string. If you use the key description, you can get this is a sample document value in your screen. And so on. So you can just use the key value pairs to find what you like, or what you want. So let's go back to this document. So for this document, you will find a very special item, the ID. So this ID is very unique in our MongoDB schema. So ID is a 12 bytes hexadecimal number, which it shows the uniqueness of each document. So why we use ID? Because we want to make sure this document is unique, because in our database, there may be some documents or some records has similar values there, like the documents may have the same username, may have the same item name, but these documents are still different from others. So we want to split these similar documents to different ones, so we are going to use ID. So when you go back to the MySQL, we still use the same performance functionalities there. So like we define primary key there. So for the primary key, just like works as the ID there, just contains the unique values there. So it's so the primary key or IDs help user to find a special specified value on the database. So for MySQL, most tables should have a primary key. Not most, so if you don't decide to use the primary key, you can just define that table without any primary key, and you can insert duplicate values in that table. So that's fine. But for MongoDB, there must be a ID in the document. So if you don't put the ID in the document, like you don't define a value for the ID, but MongoDB will automatically generate the ID for the document. Seems like if you ignore the ID, there when you query the document to select the document and print it on your screen, you can still find an ID, and this ID should be looked like that, or maybe a little bit different, but still that's the object ID. So for the MongoDB, we have support many data types there. But if you go back to the MySQL, you can find there are limited data types there. But for the MongoDB, it supports a lot of data types. So like string, integer, boolean, double, min, max, key, array. Arrays will be the very important type in the MongoDB database, MongoDB document. So we will discuss it later. And the timestamp, regular expression, and object. Also, object will be the other important type in the document. Noun, symbol, and data object ID, and binary data code. Also, this is very special. So MongoDB can save JavaScript code into the document. So if you want to, for example, if you want to insert a JavaScript code into the MySQL, I think that's impossible. So it seems like this code will be saved as a line string. So when you print out, it's not a code anymore. It's just a string. You have to split different symbols there and make it read as a code. So for the MongoDB, you can insert a code into the document. So it's very useful for the user to insert their code or to make some special requirement. So data modeling, when we go back to this document, so we will find these these special symbols there, braces and brackets. So why we should use this? So talk about these two special symbols, we have talked about the JavaScript object notations. So this, we call it JSON. So when you try to do your project, you have to use JSON to insert, to process, to manage your documents in MongoDB. So the developer developed this JSON just for some reason, because it's open, human, and machine readable standard. So like if you go back to this document, you will see it's very clear for user to read, like title, what's the title value? That's a MongoDB sample. What's the description? This is the sample document. What's the text? Text is a MongoDB sample, MySQL. And what's the number? Number is 1,000. What's who is that? Who is the people there? So it's the Luo Yu, and he sent 2 message. So it's very easy for the user to read what's included in the document, and seems like it's easy to do the key value pairs there. But since MySQL has similar performance there, like you can find a table and view all tables information. But this table content, the table in MySQL contains a very simple information, simple contents there, just one column or one row record there, just seems like a very simple information. But here, when you go to get a document or get a record, you can see there are complex information there, like you can put everything here. So we will discuss this schema later. So JSON is very human readable language or data structure there. So there are 2 important data structure. One is the collection of key value pairs. So first of all, we should know what is the key value pair. Like this is the key value pair. There's a key and there's a value there. We use a column to split or to make the key value pair, this schema. And the collections of key value pairs, it means we can use object to store a list of key value pairs. So if there are a lot of key value pairs, we are going to use comma to split this list items. So if you're familiar with the list in array list in Java, so you will know what's the collection of key value pairs. So we just pay attention to the key value pairs, and the ordered list of values. So what is the ordered list values? Seems like it's another aspect of the schema. So like we know a list there. So this is a list. Ignore these key value pairs because we store the key value pairs in Java schema. But we want to know the list of values. So it's not the key value pairs, it's just the values there. So here, this is a list of values. So you can still store, so the user can store a list of values by using the command to split them in a list. So we use braces to keep the list. So like we can insert every values there. Also for this example, you can see the list contains several objects, several key value pairs. So for when you try to say that if we ignore these braces there, it's not a list of values. It should be a collection of key value pairs. But if you keep these braces, you will say that's an object, that's a value there. So it means this object is a value. So you just can store it into a list by using the brackets there. So in this symbol, you can show the list of information, a list of values there. So for that, we get two important data types there. So first is object. Object use the braces there, so to show the list of key value pairs. So it's a collection of key value pairs. So this is simple. First, we have an ID. So if you define ID, that's your defined value. If you're not, there's an object ID there. And we use comma to split it. So this is one key value pair. Then the rest of them are key value pairs too. Like the number and should be the value. The value should be one. The key is object. The value should be an object. That's okay. And the key is array, and the value is the array. Is a list of values there. So for the objects, seems like you just follow the key value pairs. Let's rule, and then you can do everything. You can do everything on it. So like you can put just an array here. You can put an object here. So it's up to your design. So based on your requirement, you can do what you like. So that's free for user to design their own schema. And for array, so we just a sequence of values there. And the syntax should be the brackets and store all these values by using comma to split these values into the list. So this is simple. So first, you should know for any project, you have to keep these braces there because that's a document. For any document, you have to, the first symbol should be this one and the last symbol should be this one. So because these two symbols to make a document for MongoDB, for JSON, for else. So when you design a document, don't ignore these very important symbols because one document is one object. So never ignore these two symbols when you ignore these ignore these two symbols there. So when you try to insert only these items into the MongoDB, it won't work. But when you try to use MongoDB shell to do that, you want to it's quite different language. It's quite different schema. We will discuss it later. But in your mind, you have to have a picture of this document. So because that's what we want you to learn from this MongoDB schema. And let's go back to array. So anything in the object should follow the key value pairs, even though that's a array. So because if you just keep an array, someone think we can just keep an array just without the key. So if you ignore this key, how can you find this array? I mean, there are several arrays there. How can you find this special array? So that's why we are going to follow the key value pairs rule in here. So that's the key, and we have values, a list of values. That means an array. So for the array, you can store a list of key value pairs object, and also you can store values there. Values could be anything. That could be an object of key value pairs. And still, I mean, array can store the another array. So it means like there are many levels there. So like here, we have an array of array. Then this inside array has another array. So it's up to your design. So in our purpose of using database, we don't want you to design a very complicated schema, because what you are not only just insert data into the MySQL, you want to use it, manage it, read it. So if you put if you design a very complicated schema there, it will cost a long time to read it and to process it. So just before you try to design your schema, you should think a lot of, concepts like, how can we use this data? How can we use it for future work? So never think that we just put all data, all record, all information to a document. Maybe it's the simplest way, but it will cost a lot of time for your future work. So because we don't have enough time for this class, so we just show the, I will just show the result. But before I show the result, I want to know what we want you to do. For this is a record here. So when user give this information to you, want you to make this information into a record, into a document. Now you have a course. This is the course name, and you have a unit list. Right now you have 3 units, and unit 1 is the introduction. Unit 0 is the introduction. Unit 1 is the big data intro, and Unit 2 is the data pipelines. And we have 2 AIs, so to discuss the discussion session. So you and Dimitar. So how to put this information into the document, into a one document. So first of all, you should know. So there should be a braces there, because that's our object, that's our document. And we should have to manage key value pairs for this stuff, for the course, for the unit list, for the AIs. And also, when you see the unit list, you should think, okay, there are several informations here. How can we store these different informations? So that's why we are going to use array, or we are going to add the inside object for this document. Also, for the AI, we do the same thing. So let's go to our solution. So first, someone will ignore this ID because they think we haven't defined any information for the ID. It's fine. So, and the MongoDB could define an object for the user here. So when you insert all the data into document, you will find there's an ID there. And then course name should be course. It's same. So just define the key field name, and that's the course name. So put the value. Management access and use of big and complex data. So we use a comma to split the pairs. Then we are going to store the unit list. So here, I just use a list of objects here. So for unit 1, I just make these key value pairs. Unit 1 pairs to the introduction, and it's our object. So this array will store a list of objects here. Also, if you want, you can store a list. You can make a list of values like that. Should we change it to be a string like unit 0 without any list symbols there, just the unit 0 introduction and a comma. Then unit 1 big intro comma. Then that's all. So that's a list of values, like a list of strings there. So it's an array type. Also for the people, I still use array to store object information. So like their people, person, you, raw AI, person, Dimitar, raw AI. Also, you can put object. If you like, you can put the ID here. So it's the non-SQL data. There's no exact correct answer here. You can design the schema based on any ideas, what you want. So maybe you just want to make a simple, just put all this like a string. That's fine. So just follow two rules there: key value pairs and object and array. So that's the basic schema for our MongoDB and for JSON. And when you try to do all this stuff, you have to make sure you don't miss any symbols or make any error schema there. Like sometimes you will ignore these braces there. So just the array of key value pairs, but it doesn't work because array cannot store any key value pairs there. So let's go back next. So for the document structure, there are two kinds of document structure there. One is the references document, and one is the embedded document. So this information this is what we want you to design your information, to design your document, design your database, because sometimes you will think the one document can store all information, but if you have a very complicated complicated record or thousands of lines of information, how can you store this information? It's not a good idea to save them in one document. So we just applied two. So the developer just applied two different structures for the different document. So let's go to the references document. So references document stores the relation between data by including link or reference from one document to another. So this kind of document, this kind of structure works as the relationship in MySQL. Like you have to define a primary and foreign key. So like you can lead one record jump to another record in different collection or in different database. So by using that link, you build a relationship in different collection. So that's what we are going to use the database, because we want to make a relationship, make a network between different relative documents there. So for the relationship, we can define 4 levels of relationship, like first one-to-one, one-to-n, n-to-n, and n-to-1. So all these relationships are similar with MySQL relationship. In MySQL relationship, you can use primary key to define one-to-n or one-to-one. And if you have the foreigner key, you can define n-to-n or n-to-1. So it's up to your documents. It's up to your design. But the reference document give us a good idea how to manage a very complex network for the database or for the data set. So here we have a sample document. So this document contains a field that will reference the address documents ID field there. So first of all, this document has its own ID. So the machine automatically generates the ID here. So that's the ID. And for the address, for this sample, we just list two, ID there. So if thousands of ID and the ID is very complicated, that it will record the zip code for the country, for the address, something like that. So it's very difficult for user to read. Then the developer try to use the reference document to implement this schema, implement this document. Like he just apply object ID. So this object ID will lead the user, lead the MongoDB to another document in different or in same collection. So if you think there are thousands of, address information there, we just list thousands of object ID. And maybe you think it's not good idea because just list ID there. So you can make a key value pair. You can make a list of objects. So this one object will contain a key value pair. Just get a key means a use address. Then it lead to a list object. This unique ID, and that's Dimitar's address. Then to lead to object another address ID. So this is sample. Here we have a user document, we have a network document, and we have a tweet document. So each document, so for all these three kind of documents, they show us one user, like this is the user. But for the Twitter, the user will have a relationship, will have friends. So how can we find friends? So we just use this ID, then jump to another document. Still, this document is used for that user, but it will store network information. So it will show the network. So this is another ID. This ID will lead to another user's document. It's not the current user document. That's a friend user's document. So you can. So it's very clear to store all this information in an array. And if you want to get user's tweet information, so just follow this ID. You can go to another tweet document. Means this tweet document store all the published tweets there. So maybe they're here. This is a sample. So we just use a list of key value pairs there. We use comma to split these key value pairs, object of key value pairs. Sometimes you think, okay, this is complicated. So you can still also use the object instead of this entire content there. So anyway, so if you want to use a reference document, you have to pay attention to how to set a unique ID for different documents, but they should have a relationship. Means like, if you don't want to use this user ID, you have to define your own ID. But this user document should store this unique ID, I mean the network ID in this list, in this document, so that you won't miss any relationship in the document. So here, so we have this is the same in question, how to build this sample in a reference structure. So like we have the course info unit list and AI. When you want to use a reference structure, so you should have to think. So because the reference structure is going to, help you save the time to review information. If one content like this unit list includes several different information, not as like a string or number or something. It's just like include a different information, a different record or different objects. You have to think about it. Could we use a reference structure to save this information? Because if there are thousands of information there, so when you query this document on your screen, so you will find the screen will list of thousands of information, and for one of these thousand information, you will see a lot of words there. So you will take a lot of time to figure out what's included in that object. So the reference structure just save your time. Just we make this one to an object, then this object ID, the object ID of this document will lead you to another document. So let's go to see one of the solutions. This is solution one. So we have an object ID for this, object for this document, for this sample. So then we have a class name, and we have a unit list. Instead of using the a list of object of key value pairs, we just use the object ID. So if you know, so when you query this information, you got list data, list contents on your screen. Find you have a list of unit here. So yeah, you have to, if you want to know what is this, means what's this ID reference to another object, you just query this. You use this ID to query the collection, and you can find, okay, this ID leads you to information that this title is the introduction. Even though it's very simple, but if we add course materials here, course discussion, course question here, so it will save you a lot of time to read it. Because if you make this record in here, you will say, wow, this document is big, and take me a lot of time to figure out the key value or the list there. And you will see, okay, it takes me a lot of time. So here, so it will save you time. Just follow this, relationship by query this ID in collection. You will go to this place. It's better than insert the document insert the entire document into one object. So that's another solution. So MongoDB, for MongoDB, we don't have an exact correct answer for a schema for a document because it's non-SQL schema, and because many different people have different ideas about how to store the information. So just do what you want. Design a correct schema for any requirements. Then you can store all information. Also, so for the schema, you can manage it. You can add more information. You should know the collection is just a place to save all the information. Like collection is that folder, and the document is that file. So you can put all documents in a folder, right? You can put different kind of documents, PDF, DLC, something like that. Even though a video, so you can put a video in a folder. Like, so it means for MongoDB, you can put a different document. Maybe the user document, product document. You can put this document into a one collection. But it's if you do that, this document is very strange. Like you want to query username, you query in this document. In this collection, if you want to query product information, you query in this collection. So it's hard to give a good name for this collection. So make sure you know that. And let's go back to solution 2. Here, we just leave the unit list here, but we trying to build a reference structure in the AIs here. So here, AIs for this array list of object ID. So we have our ID here, and we got 2 IDs. So we use this ID and jump to a different document in different collection. So here, so for example, we just save this as a course info collection, just a course info collection. That's the name, course info. And here we just use AI. That's a collection name of collection. So when we query the name, when we query the AI collection, we can get this information. So just follow this relationship object ID, then jump to this collection, jump to this document, and you can find all this information there. So here, so that's what we want to use the reference structure in MongoDB. It will save your time and make your document human readable, and it's easy to query it, to get the values by query the key. So there, the last structure is embedded document. So embedded is a very simple structure, like one document contains all information on other documents. So like you have one document, you save all this information, you save about 1 megabyte data into that. That's fine. Just put all information, all documents, follow the rules, then save it into the document. But you should know that, the list structure is simple but heavy. Simple, easy to put all information in one document. You just store if you want, you can store the raw data into this document. That's fine. Then you will have to process later. Heavy, hard to read the document and hard to manage the document. Image, for example, so like you import thousands of fields, thousands of key value pairs there. So how can you remember what you put there? How can you remember the keys there? So it takes a long time to find out the key. So maybe you can use Java to get a key set. That's good. But there's thousands of items there. You have to view the thousands of items. So it takes a long time, and we don't encourage you to use the embedded document in the data set, because it's not a good idea. It's just store the data and it have low performance to manage it, to process it. So it's not a good idea. So above this, this example, so we just the sample. So I show you in the beginning of the class. Just we put all this information there, and if the information is the document is very simple, you can view the document on screen. That's fine. It's very clear, and you can gather all this stuff. But therefore, there are thousands of information there, so you take a long time. It take maybe half hour to read it. Why? So yeah. So just the database is going to help you manage the data set. So don't make any don't make this data set very complicated, because you are going to use it, you are going to manage it. Still, this is the idea how to you are going to use it in your project. Just remember, make this database human readable, easy to manage, easy to access. So So this is our class because we have we only have 15 minutes to do that. So I just briefly introduce the MongoDB, and I already posted 2 links on the Piazza. That one is a tutorial, one is a document. So you can review it and get more information about that. So for next class, we are going to talk about how to install and use MongoDB, the MongoDB share command, like how to create a database, how to create collection, how to drop them, and how to insert data, how to update data. So that's our next class content. So I think the class is over now. So I will stop it. So I will ask some. So I think that's what we want to talk, and I will